jingle, and I forgot to start YouTube Live. So all of those on in TikTok land, all those on the Zoom as well as on YouTube, I want to welcome you to our 100 Queens Restart, Rebuild, and Rise featuring Jess Arce. Jess Arce. I said it. All right. I was still a little nervous on there, but I'm super excited to have you here. Um, so I want to welcome you all again. This is a space where the queens don't just talk about what they've been through. We talk about how to restart. We talk about how to rebuild and how they rise. Okay. And how they also help others to do the same thing. So I am your host, Samantha Hill, Miss Mississippi Corporate America 2026. And this platform was created to give women a voice, visibility, and a stage, okay? Because we don't just interview queens, we build platforms. All right, queens. So before we get started, let's do a little housekeeping, okay? I know people don't like housekeeping, but we like things to kind of flow. So go ahead and grab your pen and paper because you want to take notes, okay? You want to take notes because I'm sure she gonna throw out some gems, okay? So um also we're gonna have a Q&A at the end. All right. So make sure you write down all your notes. I mean, all your questions, and we would have a Q&A moment. Okay. So go ahead and save those questions until that time, and we can keep everything flowing. Okay. So I just want to ask you guys to give a warm welcome for our guests. Tonight, I have the honor of introducing a queen who has turned her personal journey into purpose. And I call her Jess, okay? She is the CEO of 3D Learning Experts. She supports families navigating learning difficulties, and she's going to educate us in that area a little later. Okay. So I don't want to go too far with an explanation because I don't want to tell us you the wrong information. Okay. But most importantly, she helps children build their confidence in who they are. She is also an author of, I think, 3 books, right? Am I correct? 3 books?
So this is my one book I wrote. The other
Okay.
two, one of them I was a contributing author, and the small one I compiled um,
Affirmation.
inspirational affirmations. Yes,
Yeah.
from neurodivergent people, and I have some of my own affirmations in there.
All right, that's wonderful. I love that. So your book is I'm Not Dumb, I Am Dyslexic,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna start out with I want to kind of hear about your personal story. Okay. I want you to start with before the business started and everything that you're doing right now. We're gonna kind of go back to I'm Not Dumb, I'm Dyslexic, your book. Okay. So can you take us back to when things began to click for you? Okay, because I know you kind of had to self-diagnose yourself at one time. So when you started to recognize your strengths and not just when did you, should I be asking, start to recognize your strengths and not just your challenges?
Well, I would say both my strengths and my challenges shined through when I was about 9 or 10 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'll take you back to when I was in elementary school.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So I was when I was a child, I could not read. I when I had to do the vision tests at a much older age than the average person, they still had to show me the pictures that the little preschoolers um, use for eye tests because I couldn't identify the letters. So that's the farthest back I remember having challenges. And my mother, who was a teacher and was diagnosed with dyslexia in the 40s, had no clue what dyslexia looked like in a human being. She just had this label and she knew she struggled in school. And so they said I had a reading disability,
Mm-hmm.
and I got held back in third grade. I do not recommend parents hold back kids. That did not help me one bit. It actually made everything worse because I went to a small school and there was only like one class. Maybe that one had two classes per grade. I can't remember. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, it was a small school. And so I watched all my classmates move up from third grade to fourth grade, and I did not move up. I had to do third grade again. Well, I started acting out. I started fighting the boys and the kids. I spent almost every day in the principal's office that year. Now, I did have a tutor who came to the school and she taught me how to read. So I did learn how to read that year.
Okay, that's nice.
And after I learned how to, I was always good with math, but I couldn't read, so I wasn't able to do the other subjects very well. So once I learned how to read and my mom decided to move me to a different school, I ended up skipping fourth grade because I was able to go into the right grade because now I could read.
Yeah.
So when I was 10 years old, I went to a new school and I
Mm-hmm.
met my best friend. And I'm from New York City. So, most people have seen movies about Soho and the docks, right? The big
Mm-hmm.
metal docks. And that used to be the commercial area in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And so across the street from my best friend's house was a factory, and they made these little teeny books, and they were plastic. They're the kind of things you would buy in China now, but back then they made them in America. And her and I dug these little books out of the trash across the street
Mm-hmm.
because New Yorkers like to dig through the trash. That's just something like we like to do. Okay, so anyway, we dug through the trash and we pulled out all these books that they had thrown out, and we sat on her dock and we sold them to passerbyers for 25 cents.
Okay.
So
So you was an entrepreneur at a young age, huh?
that is my point. So that's my strength. My strength
Okay.
is I am an entrepreneur, and my entrepreneurial career began at age 10. When I was 11, I got my first job and I rode my bike a mile from my apartment to the South Street Seaport. And I worked for this lady during the summer. So she took a break and I would sell her stuff. So I started doing sales at 11 years old. And yeah, and so those are two of my strengths. My third biggest strength is organizing stuff. And when I was 13 years old, my parents
Mm-hmm.
were divorced by then, and my mom had a birthday coming up, and I wanted to throw her a birthday party. And I said, "What do you want for your birthday?" And she said, "A man." I went out to the payphone. I called all of her friends and invited them to this surprise party I threw her and hired her a stripper with my money.
That
And
is
the
so cute.
stripper came and he said, "You are the youngest person to have ever
Ever
hired
heard?
me." And I paid him like $120. And this was
Oh my
back in like
goodness.
1980 something.
That's a lot
So,
of money.
yeah.
Back then anyway.
But I had
Yeah.
saved all that money from my little jobs I had had. So those are my three strengths, that, other than parenthood and teaching, that I developed at a very young age.
Oh, okay, that's amazing. So, kind of getting back to your learning problems that you had as a child. So, I just kind of want you to let everybody know how it felt when you realized, oh, I just learned differently, and that's okay. because we have a lot of kids that struggle in their learning abilities. Some have dyslexia, other issues, but um I just kind of want people to know it's okay, the kids to know that it's okay. So what was that feeling like when you realized that you just learned differently?
So for me, I never really had the experience of it was okay, personally. But for
Hmm.
my children, absolutely. Like, because three of my four children have dyslexia. And so we, my youngest son has eight neurodiversities. And we were living in Texas when my daughter got diagnosed with dyslexia. I had been trying to figure out why she couldn't draw pictures or cut with scissors from the time she was a little girl. And it wasn't until we moved to Texas and we were only there 1 week and her teacher said she's dyslexic. And so with her, it was okay. And we tried to figure out different ways to make her life better. We put her in private school. That wasn't better. We held her back. That again was not better, doesn't
Yeah,
help.
not a good thing.
Particularly a dyslexic person, because more time does not help them learn. They need to be taught differently. And
Yeah.
so when we got to Texas, we were able to get her an ARD. Texas is the only state that calls their IEP an ARD. And so we were able to get her accommodations until she started being taught the way she needed to be taught. And my youngest son, I figured out really quickly that he was dyslexic because by then I was already familiar with what it was.
Wow.
And so he had lots of accommodations that helped him with also his ADD because he would get restless in school and he would kick, she put a rubber band on his chair so he could kick the rubber band so that he had something to do with his legs, but he wasn't making too much noise and distracting the other children. And
Mhm.
then I ended up homeschooling him and, well, actually three of my four kids because they needed to learn differently. And we were leaving Texas and we were moving back to Las Vegas, and Vegas is not it's not a very good school district. So he had a very different experience once I started homeschooling him, which was great because
Mhm.
I was able to teach him the way he needed to learn instead of him having to be in an environment that wasn't conducive to his learning style. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, that was in 2011. So that's 15 years ago. Wow, 15 years ago. So things have evolved so much since then. Like Mississippi, they have testing for kids in kindergarten through second grade to see if they are having reading problems. Instead of, it used to be they would wait until they were in third grade to even address it because they'd say, well, let's just give it time. Well, the more time they give them, the farther behind they are
Yeah.
instead of, you know, well,
Kind
let's
of
see
hard
if
to
they
catch
catch
up.
up. Right.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that kind of tells me how it was for you as a mother. And that was one of my other questions, like when you were teaching your son, and you said that the reason it clicked for you with him because you had already went through it with your daughter, correct?
Hmm. Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So, the more you learn about it, the more you can
Hmm.
help. So, is it
Which,
different learning ways for each and every child is dyslexic, or is it pretty much the same?
so that's a really good question. No one has ever asked me that. And so basically, dyslexic people can all learn
Mhm.
this through alternative learning.
Okay.
And I pause to say that because I used to always say the only way was an Orton Gillingham program. However, I have recently learned about a literacy program that is supposed to be even more effective than Orton Gillingham. And I'm in this competition right now for the Entrepreneur magazine.
And you
And
in first place so
I,
far.
yeah, and if when I win that, my
Yeah.
plan is to purchase this program to help students because they will learn faster than the
Mm-hmm.
program that I have been using for the last 14 years. But
Okay.
anyway, so to answer your question, um, all dyslexic or 99% of dyslexic people can learn within these same programs.
Okay.
However,
Mm-hmm.
dyslexia is not the same with everybody.
Okay.
And so like I said, three of my kids and my husband and I have dyslexia, but we all have varying degrees of dyslexia. I've got this horrible glare from the sun. Does it like look horrible?
No, you look amazing, Queen.
Okay. I'm like, because I could go close my blind, but anyway, so all of us have different challenges. Like my youngest son and my mom, they get lost really easily. Um, my husband struggles with like common phrases that most people can say. He'll kind of get stumped up on
Mhm.
them. Spelling is typically something all dyslexic people have challenges with. So the signs, the characteristics of dyslexia can vary,
Okay.
although there are about 25 common characteristics that people with dyslexia will often have, but the solutions are the same. And one of the reasons why the solution works for all dyslexic people is we're incorporating all of the learning styles. So typically, school will only address one way of learning, right? The
Yeah.
teacher lectures you, and you're
Mhm.
just supposed to hear it all and absorb it all,
Yeah.
and then do it. But like me, I'm a kinesthetic person. So, like you said, take notes. You're probably a kinesthetic person. That's why you're telling other people to take notes, right? So, for me, if I take notes, I will remember something. I may never look at the notes again,
But it's just something about writing.
but I
Yeah.
got them all written down, right?
Mhm.
Or some people need to repeat what they hear in order to remember it. Some people need to actually do stuff, right? That's the note taking. So we've got our different learning styles,
Yeah.
and so our tutoring, our instruction that is ideal for dyslexic people is incorporating all of those learning styles.
Gotcha.
And repetition is really important for
Mm.
dyslexic people.
How
So,
about visual learning? I'm a visual learner. I learn better if I see it being done, or
yes,
like kind of like you said, a note taking. I gotta
right.
see. It's like something about writing it just makes you remember. Is you have to visually see it, or videos and
So
stuff.
the writing it is actually the kinesthetic part. It's the
Okay.
feeling. But
Hmm.
seeing things, if you like look at someone's face and you remember them, then that is more the visual. Like if you
Okay.
look at a phone number and you can remember it after that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm learning a lot here. And I keep going back to uh how to, how dyslexic people feel, because I know it's just something kind of like bullying, for example. If you're being bullied and versus being popular, okay? So when a child is going through being dyslexic and all at once they're getting this support, they get uplifted by their family, So what does that mean to you? How does that feel to you to see them go from being unsure to becoming confident? Because I know you encourage them to be confident in themselves.
Yeah, so most of the time when students come to us, they're usually about three or more reading levels behind grade level.
Okay.
And so their confidence has gone way down.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, well meaning teachers and often parents and sometimes grandparents will think that the child is being lazy or not trying or being difficult. And so
Rebellious. Yeah.
that affects the individual, right? From the
Right.
inside out. And so a lot of times we find that our students have given up on themselves because everyone around them has given up on them, or
Right.
everyone around them is putting them down. And classmates too. I mean, classmates will tease them. And it happens as early as kindergarten
Mm.
because they have the like books where they're like A through, I don't know what they go up to in kindergarten, but A through L, let's say. And they know that the A book readers are at the beginning, and the ones who can read the books that are J or K are much farther along. And they put them in groups by this, and they have them pick books based on those levels. So everyone knows the kid who's struggling.
Right.
And so, the older the kid gets, the longer they're not getting help, the more their self esteem goes down. So, once we start helping our students, then their self esteem starts going up because they see that our program is different than how they're being taught in school,
Mm.
and that they're not dumb, and that they do have an opportunity to learn. And so from that they start to feel better. And then we also help build their self-esteem just by bringing out what they're good at, talking about what their strengths are. Most dyslexic people are really good at sports or music or some sort of art, acting, performing, things like that. So they're usually much better than your average person because dyslexic people have to work so hard in life anyway that when they're enjoying something, they're passionate about it, they're willing to work hard at it.
Yeah, they're gonna put their all into it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That does. Okay, you explained that perfectly.
Okay.
Something else I wanted you to I need you to kind of educate us, okay? So for the queens that are out there watching, can you just kind of break down the three Ds and the difference between them, kind of in a simple way, like you just
I
explained,
I
for
would
us to
love to.
understand?
I
Yeah.
am going to go close my blinds first, though, so hang
Okay.
tight.
Okay, it's fine. So those of you that are here listening, it is time to get educated on dyslexia because it's more to it than I thought and probably more to it than you thought as well. So we're taking a little short break and she's going to close her blinds and she is back.
Oh, that
Yes.
is so much better.
Yeah.
Usually I don't see myself on the camera, but I
Mm.
couldn't turn myself off, and I'm seeing like I'm disappearing.
Yeah. Because as the
So
sun goes down, it's getting stronger into your face. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm on the West Coast, and it's 5:30 right now, so the sun's just kind of moving over. Anyway,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So let me talk about the three Ds.
Yes.
The
That's what
first
I'm about.
one that most people are familiar with is dyslexia.
Yes.
So dys means not or difficulty, and lexia means words. So dyslexia simply means difficulty with words. So that's difficulty with reading words, difficulty with spelling words, and or difficulty with communicating words. Now, there's lots of other challenges that people with dyslexia have, but that is the epitome of what dyslexia is. Dyslexia is not a problem with reversals. Let me repeat that.
Okay.
Dyslexia is not a problem with reversals, because most people think that that is what dyslexia
I
is,
thought, yeah.
because that's what the movies and the TV shows tell us dyslexia is.
Y'all
And
listening to the expert though, right here.
right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I have met so many students who did not get help until they were much older because they didn't reverse anything. So the parents said, well, it must not be dyslexia. We don't know what it is.
Mm,
And again, most teachers don't know what dyslexia or dysgraphia or dyscalculia really is.
yeah.
So they're not usually that helpful. Um, anyway, so I will, well, would you like me to tell you what the reversals could be first, or tell you the other disses?
Yeah, I am interested in hearing about the reversals because I
Okay.
reverse all the time. Letters, numbers, everything.
Have you always?
Yeah, I believe I
Okay.
am. So I don't
Okay.
know if it was just a learning behavior.
Well, I asked if it's always or something recent because a lot of times adults will reverse things when they're tired. But if you've always done it, then
I've always done.
here are the three things that are typically the cause of the reversals, which
Mhm.
are pretty much uh, what's the word I want? I can't think of the word. But anyway, connected with dyslexia, like you'll have a couple of neurodiversities. Okay, so anyway, the reasons people reverse are A, the brain hasn't had time to figure out what these symbols mean. So, for example, this right here, who is this?
Minnie Mouse.
Uh huh. How about now? Is she still Minnie Mouse?
You messing with me now. Uh, if I go by the ears, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, she's still Minnie
She's
Mouse.
still Minnie Mouse.
How
Hmm.
about now? Is she still Minnie Mouse?
Yes.
Is she still Minnie Mouse?
Yes.
And even though you can barely see her, she's still Minnie Mouse, right?
Yeah, because you already showed me.
Right.
Minnie Mouse.
I mean, no matter what, she is Minnie
It's Minnie
Mouse.
Mouse.
You see a mouse with
The little polka
polka
dot.
dots, and you know that's Minnie Mouse.
Yeah.
Okay, so now if you see a line and a circle in a letter, it could be six different things. It
Mhm.
could be a B, it could be a D, it could be a P, it could be a Q. I guess it's four different letters. It can be a six, it can be a nine,
Your
right?
10.
I
Okay.
mean, separated,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Separate.
10 isn't
Okay.
usually confused.
Okay. Okay.
But so that's the thing. The brain thinks one symbol should mean one thing.
Got you.
But our English language, the line and the circle means six different things, four letters and two numbers. So that's one of the biggest reasons for reversals is the brain just hasn't processed that these symbols have multiple meanings. Number two is scotopic syndrome, also called Erlin syndrome. And that's where letters and numbers move on the page. That's where words can move on the page. People can see double, letters flip around, all sorts of different visual challenges occur. And I often recommend that people go to erlin.com, and on her website, Dr. Erlin discovered this years ago. You can see if that is your reason for having reversal challenges or other letter word moving
Yeah.
situations
Yeah.
or blurriness or things like that. And the
Okay.
recommendation for that is colored overlays or tinted glasses. So I've had students who have gotten orange tinted glasses, pink tinted glasses. Only the girls will do it. The boys won't do it.
Yeah.
But you can do colored
Hmm.
colored paper. You can put colored stuff on your computer screen. Now you can probably get your computer or your phone screen to change
If
colors.
it's
My youngest son has his phone screen is black and the writing is white. So white paper and black writing is really hard on the eyes of someone with scotopic syndrome, or also called Erland syndrome. So that's reason number two.
okay. That's
Reason number,
interesting. Before you go on,
yes,
give the queens that email address. Spell it for them,
the
please.
website,
The website.
IRLEN.com.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So the third possible reason for the reversals, um, so my son has two of the three. I mean, it could be the first one too, because we don't really know. That's a maturity thing that usually gets outgrown. Okay,
Yeah.
so number three is vision depth perception challenges or other vision challenges that can be adjusted in vision therapy. You have to do eye training.
Mhm.
So I tutored my son, and when he was in 10th grade, he was reading on an 11th grade reading level. So I taught him how to read, right? But he still was reversing about half the letters and numbers in the alphabet. So he went to vision therapy at 16 years old. And after doing all the training, he no longer reverses any of his letters or numbers. His handwriting got better. So that's the third reason is vision.
Okay.
And a lot of times people will go to vision therapy thinking that will help with their dyslexia, but it won't, because they're two separate things.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Okay, so back to the disses. So number two is dysgraphia. And remember, dys means not or difficulty.
Hmm.
Graphia or graph is writing. So what do you think dysgraphia is?
I was thinking that it was going to be for drawing,
Well, writing. It's for
writing. Yeah.
difficulty with writing.
Difficult with writing.
So, and there's different kinds of dysgraphia. So it can be really, really sloppy, choppy handwriting. It can be, you can communicate just fine, but as soon as someone asks you to write something, you have this total block and you can't write anything. And that's what happened with my second youngest child is some severe dysgraphia. So writing was just like so hard that
Mhm.
I ended up writing his papers from the time I started homeschooling him in 5th grade all the way up until he graduated in high school. And then dyscalculia, so again, dys or not, and calculia,
Math.
calculating. So
Yeah.
that's math.
Math.
So dyscalculia is difficulty with math. And basically, it's like they're hearing a foreign language being spoken about math. So I had a student who, she was 18 years old when I started tutoring her, and she was reading on about a 3rd grade level. Mom hired me to teach her how to read and spell. And then one day we got done early, and I don't know why I was asking her to do math. I have no recollection of that. But she couldn't add 6 plus 4. Like
Mhm.
I had 6 jelly beans and 4 jelly beans, and she could not add them
Put it together. Mm.
because her brain could not learn the way she had been taught all through school how to do math. So that's when I implemented our math program,
Mhm.
because I was like, this girl's 18. She could start having a family and need to help her children figure out math, and she's not going to be able to do that. So I started tutoring her in math. And then within a couple of years, she was moving to Tennessee or something like that
Mm-hmm.
and with her boyfriend, and she needed to get a job, so I helped her with a resume, and she got a job as a cashier at Kmart, and we wrote her resume on my Google account, and so then several years later, you know how when you have a Google when you do
You
a
both can
Google
see it. Mm-hmm.
well,
Share.
it pops up, right? When you use one. So all of a sudden it pops up and I see her resume there and I was like, huh, why is that popping up?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was updating her resume and she had been a manager at a grocery store. So she went from this girl who couldn't read, couldn't spell, couldn't add 4 plus 6, and
Mm-hmm.
now she's been a manager at a grocery store.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah.
So would you say that just um having somebody in your life like you that's a caring person that's actually taking out time to learn how they learn, and then practice. What you say, practice is what really helps people that have this, the different disses.
Well, they say that if someone has dyslexia or dysgraphia or dyscalculia, they
Yeah.
need one person to be their advocate, one person who believes in them,
Yeah.
and they can achieve it.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. And thank God they have you. That is
But
truly
but they
amazing.
need their parent or their grandparent or their auntie to or their queen to care
Hmm.
enough to get them me or my tutors, right?
Right.
Because I mean, I don't just walk around the city or the country saying, "Let me help you."
Yeah.
They need that advocate to get them to me or someone like me.
Okay. So do you do it online or is it just
Yes. Yeah, we are
okay, great.
100% online ever since COVID, and it works very well online. Sometimes it works better for students than it did when we had in-person tutoring because they don't have the distractions of hearing other people getting tutored around them. And one-on-one is really important because everyone needs to go at their own pace and feel comfortable to say when they don't understand something or they need it explained again. So that's very important.
What made you decide to carry it to that level of helping people?
I never intended on this being my career. So I had been a realtor, um, and but when I started helping my son, then I started homeschooling. I can't
Hmm.
remember if I mentioned that already. But I was at a homeschool event and talking to another mom, and she said her daughter was in fifth grade and couldn't read, and she was describing what was going on. And I had only been tutoring my son for a few months, but by then I had already been trained. I understood what the signs looked like or sounded like. And I said, well, that sounds like dyslexia. So I offered to tutor her daughter, and that's literally how it
Started.
grew from there because
Yeah.
she told one of her another Girl Scout mom whose daughter was also dyslexic. Now that daughter was not as severe. However,
Hmm.
that daughter wanted to act, to be an actress. And
Hmm.
so she wanted to fine tune her reading abilities so that she could, you know, read the scripts better and things like that.
Right.
And then she told someone, and so it just took off from there.
Okay, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. I love that. So let us know what part of your work do you do today that brings you the most joy?
My sales calls bring me the most joy. Because I like selling and I
Mhm.
know that our program works. So I'm not trying to sell, a jar of fish oil, or not fish oil, snake oil.
Mhm.
Um, I'm
Yeah.
selling something that will change your child's life. And
Right.
so I really enjoy the sales calls because I get to change lives.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. I love that. Okay, so I guess this will be my last question. It's just so much education in it that I'm learning right here on this live call. So, if that was just one thing that you could that you wanted every parent um to know about this, in this conversation and everything, what would that be?
It's not your fault. A lot of times, the schools, the teachers will say you need to read more to your kids, you need to do this more, do that more. It doesn't matter how much more you do. If your child has dyslexia and they're not being taught in the way that their brain needs to be taught, they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to learn. I paid teachers to tutor my daughter for 3 school years after school, and it never helped because they were teaching her the exact same way after school that they were teaching her all day in school.
Mm.
So, um, it's not your fault, and you can do something about it. Don't rely on the schools. If the schools happen to identify that your child has dyslexia, dysgraphia, or dyscalculia, and their services still aren't helping, then you need to take steps to um, find someone to help. And fortunately, more and more, our government is stepping in and providing people with financial assistance for tutoring, because it used to be parents had to pay for it all out of their own pocket. I
Yeah.
don't know if Mississippi has Class Wallet, but I know North Carolina and South Carolina and several other states have a program called Class Wallet, and they give the kids like $9,000 a year to pay for their
Okay.
help.
Okay.
And so, that'll cover a year worth of tutoring. So you might
Okay.
have to do a little legwork to find out how to get your child assistance. In California, a lot of times parents have to sue the school,
Wow.
which can be expensive, but sometimes, that's the only way they can get help out here.
Yeah.
Um, and you could do what I did. I mean, I bought the program myself so that I could teach my own kids, and then I started tutoring other kids, which then paid for the program that I purchased.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
that's an option too. So
Mhm.
um, where there's a will, there's a way.
Exactly. So, I want you to let everybody know how to connect with you, okay? Because I want them to follow you and support you. Can you give us your contact information,
Yeah, it's
social media?
3dlearningexperts.com.
Okay.
And everywhere except for Facebook, you can add 3D Learning Experts and we'll come up. Facebook, we could not add the S, so it's 3D Learning Expert.
Okay. So we have learned what the 3D stands for. Okay. That is definite was a learning experience for me. And I want to thank you so much for your heart, just the impact you have on these kids, on these families. Everything is just totally beautiful. And I love that. So is it anything else that you would like to share before we?
Um, well, so when I was in high school, I tried to go to an alternative high school, and they told me that they would not accept me because I was not college material. And so I couldn't go to this alternative high school. But eventually, well, not eventually, I went to a different high school,
Mhm.
and I got my high school diploma, and I ended up going to a high school that was accelerated. So I ended up graduating high school a year early at 16, and then went to college across the country. So don't accept what people believe you are, because we have the power to become who we want to be in this day and age.
Yeah.
There was a time when maybe people were held back from being able to do things, but I have always been self-employed because I know I am capable of doing things and I don't want to rely on someone else telling me I'm not good enough,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I have accomplished a lot more than most people have in their lifetime. And I have never worked for a corporate company. I've only worked for, small companies. And then I started working for myself after my first child was born when I was 22 years old. And I have never worked for anyone since.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And I love that. That was very powerful what you just said. Whatever you want to be, you can do it. Let nobody stop you, okay? Convince you that you're not good enough. I really love that. And I also want to reach out to the queens. This is a new platform that I have started, and I want to say to the queens out there, if you're ready to restart, rebuild, or rise, exactly like Miss Jess has done, Queen Jess, should I say, or you're just interested in being featured on this platform, I want you to go to shiftyourconfidence.com. Okay. I also wanted to share my book that I wrote. It's also called Shift Your Confidence. Okay. So shiftyourconfidence.com would allow you to fill out an intake form. So we want to help as many queens. My goal is 100 queens to restart, rebuild, and rise. And we all go through, some people say, well, I've been in this business so long, but we all go through life challenges that happen where we got to kind of restart, we got to rebuild. Even if you got a team of people, you might have to rebuild your team. As long as you continue to rise, like Jess says, okay, let nobody tell you that you're not good enough or you can't do it. It's not failure, it's just a pause. Okay, so if you're interested, make sure you go to shiftyourconfidence.com and fill out the intake form, and we will go from there. And I want to say to the queens that's watching, many of you um, um, don't know everything that I do. So I do want to share that. As you know, I am the new Miss Mississippi Corporate America for 2026. And I help women build their confidence, find their voice, and show up. But it doesn't stop there. So this restart, rebuild, and rise is not just a message, it's also about being business ready. Okay. So because let's be real, a lot of us have amazing ideas, and we just don't always have the money or the strategy to bring it to life. So that is what I do. And we don't want you using your own money. We talked about it a little bit before this interview, and we don't want you stressing yourself out. So trying to build something build big. We've been taught so many ways, so many years, the wrong way to do it. So I teach women how to use OPM, which means other people's money. So you can start, you can grow, you can scale your business the right way. So if you've been trying to figure it out on your own, or you've been feeling stuck when it comes to funding, just know there is always another way. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and end this live. I'm super excited that you came. I love, love, love the information that you gave. It was very powerful. And we definitely going to make sure we get it on all platforms so we can make sure other people, not just the queens, but mostly the women, because we the one that usually nurture the babies, know the different signs to look for. And they can also contact you. Tell us again how they can contact you.
So the best thing to do is to schedule a discovery call